Showrunners silent on David Choe. Do you know what's going on with David Choe? Because a lot of people are talking about this one. Wildly talented artist, musician, celebrated actor now on the Netflix show Beef. David Choe has sparked outrage by detailing how he raped a Black woman in a recently resurfaced 2014 podcast. And no, we're not going to let you hear it. He wouldn't dare let you hear it now, but he did say these things and apparently doesn't want to own them and is now kind of intimating that, well, it's just, one of those things that I was joking about, half truth, whatever. 2014, Choe had a podcast called DVDASA. He graphically describes forcing a Black woman masseuse into sexual activity during a massage session. Here's the transcript of the podcast spoken by Choe while he was at a massage parlor attended by a therapist named Rose. So I just take her hand and I put it on my genitals, and she just holds it there, he told co-host and adult film actress Asa Akira. Before saying it was horrible and adding she wasn't doing it, he continued to describe the encounter, saying the therapist definitely wasn't into it, but that she was not stopping it either. Choe said he pushed the woman's head down, forcing her to provide oral sex. Yeah. The comments received instant backlash by co-host and adult film star Asa Akira. Ew, you're basically telling us that you're a rapist now. Well, Choe replies to that, yeah, before answering the other guest questions about the masseuse's appearance. What is wrong with you guys? Akira asked. Who cares what she looks like? Dave is telling us he's a rapist, a successful rapist. Choe then laughs because rape is apparently funny to some people. The Center for Pacific Asian Family and South Asian Helpline and Referral Agency sharply criticized the actor and social norms surrounding this event. Choe's story reflects the harsh reality that men and women alike continue to believe and perpetuate the dangerous myth that coerced sexual activity is not considered assault or rape. By legal definition, you are committing an act of sexual assault when you do not receive consent. The organizations wrote in a statement. Based on Choe's telling, the masseuse's repeated protests, in addition to his physical coercion, indicate that she was not consenting to the acts he requested. The confession also received a plethora of backlash on Twitter. And you know that they go in on Twitter. David Choe's rape confession is shocking to me. Like, the culture we live in is horrific, but to think you can just graphically detail how you raped someone and still wind up on starring in this TV show, jail for everyone involved. Wow. However, much of the backlash was moderated by Choe himself, who was listed as the copyright holder and party requesting the takedowns, which is why we can't let you listen to it. You see it there. Withheld, copyright holder. Choe has now claimed that the story is fictional, as we said, since waking to a sea of heavy criticism. That didn't happen. I just made it up. Well, who even thinks like that? That's a question I want to ask you, Bennie, but I'll go on for a moment. 2014 episode, I relayed a story simply for shock value that made it seem as if I had sexually violated a woman. Though I said those words, I did not commit those actions. It did not happen, he said to NBC News' Kimmy Yam. While Choe's actions attempt to convince people that the allegations are false, Griot writer Monique Judge had this to say. The issue isn't whether or not the story is true. The issue is why use Black women as your punching bag. You owe victims of sexual assault an apology. You owe Rose an apology. You owe every woman who has ever been afraid to come forward with the story of her sexual assault an apology. You owe Black women an apology. Let's get to it, David Choe. Netflix and the cast of Beef have remained silent on the matter thus far. However, details have surfaced about Choe's role, which was attained due to his personal friendship with the creators, but was originally meant for actor Stanley Tucci. He was talking about being abandoned by his family, and I was like, the way he's talking about it just feels so Isaac, Lee says, adding that Choe happens to be friends with these creators. So, Betty, do we need to discuss, debate whether the truth or fiction of this Rose character and these horrific storytelling, these allegations, do we need to even know if it's true or not to weigh in on how gross it is?
I mean, I guess it cuts two ways because, like, on some level, it, I guess, does, from like a legal justice standpoint, matter a little bit as to whether or not it's true. I mean, I don't know what statutes of limitations are, but, then again, the reality is, unfortunately, in the United States of America, sexual assault is not something that gets prosecuted very often. Unfortunately, the overwhelming majority of cases, police won't even investigate, even if you do report it, but even more don't even get reported in the first place. But then the question of whether or not it matters if it's true, the fact is, this is what's going on in this person's head. And that right there is part of a larger problem. The fact that somebody is comfortable telling a story like that, the fact that somebody thinks that telling a story like that would be good content for a podcast, the thought that they thought that other people on that podcast would be receptive to that as though it's normal. The unfortunate reality is a lot of people are willing to accept that as normal. The unfortunate reality is there's a reason why. The fact that he is willing to tell stories like that, and the fact that so little accounts of sexual assault actually get reported or actually get prosecuted, are really the same issue at the core. It is because our society fundamentally still treats women like they should just be the property of men, and especially true when it comes to Black women in our society, who are even further dehumanized by the white supremacist justice system that we have and the white supremacist culture that we are living in. And so fundamentally, there's this constant dehumanization and sexualization of women more broadly, especially Black women, and throw on top of that all of these different layers of misogyny, throw on top of that the layers of people wanting to sound edgy, like these men who want to sound like they're some sort of tough guy, and then quite literally start putting out stories like this. And it's just absolutely horrific. And it is so shameful that anybody telling a story like this could get any job on anywhere, much less in Hollywood, where they're going to have some sort of public influence. And it's just deeply disgusting, and speaks to a larger issue in our society, where femininity more broadly is seen as something that is lesser than, and something that is, easily violated without any type of really concern for humanity, I guess. I don't know. There's a million layers to this, and
There's
this is
so
a really
many.
disgusting story.
It really is. And you know what else I think that Black women, and perhaps all women to some degree, get punished for after they are victimized by these abusers in this kind of way? When a woman isn't believed, moves on, pulls it together, presents well enough, is seemingly okay enough, the next punch to the gut is, it was not that big of a deal. And you didn't file a police report or whatever else they can come up with. And I wonder your thoughts on that, because it's like you get punished over here just because of who and what and how you were born. And then you get punished over here for surviving the victimization and the assault. And I just think none of this was funny. And the giggles from Choe back then, and the lack of remorse in the statement today. Maybe I missed it, Benny, maybe you heard it. But I think that even though it was almost 10 years ago, it's today for him. He can be judged by it today.
Most definitely, 100%, because we're still facing with the same issues today. We're still fundamentally facing the same issues today. And this goes to something that I think I was talking with you about last week, about default perspectives, where quite literally our society is not trained to view the world through the lens of women, right? Through women's eyes, right? We are trained to, by default, always only ever look through the perspective of men, to the point where there's just this systemic dehumanization and complete disregard for how women experience life. And so it's so infuriating when people are survivors. Very often they said, oh, well, it can't be that bad if you move forward. But no, it can actually be that bad. We shouldn't be putting burdens on people who are victimized right? Like fundamentally, we need to have real systems of support, but it's all this self-justifying system because we know on the front end people aren't immediately believing. We know that on the front end that people are not believing when they're victimized. And then after the fact, when we force people to recover on their own without any support, then turn around and say, oh, well, if you managed to recover, then obviously that must mean it wasn't that big a deal. That really is just a self-justification for the lack of action from the lack of action from everybody else around in that situation, right?
Yeah.
Like from our justice system, from people in the community, you name it. Because the truth of the matter is, if somebody's a victim of sexual assault, odds are it is somebody that knows them, right? Most of the time. And a lot of people are unwilling to have the tension, the discomfort of calling out somebody that they know personally because somebody else they know was victimized. And it is that discomfort, that fear of little bit of discomfort that actively puts people in danger. And if you think you're uncomfortable calling out somebody that you know, think about how uncomfortable the victims are knowing that you're unwilling to call them out.
Yeah, and look at the debate because, I'm going to move on, but the debate is like, well, should he have to lose everything? It's like, should he have to lose everything? What he's doing work-wise is a privilege, not a right. Women have a right. Everybody has a right to their own body. That's a right. Okay, it's just not respected.